Welcome back to the Fostering and Adoption Podcast with Nikki and Larry. Today, we're going to discuss disorders that can disrupt, if not denied.
Wait, before we get into that, Larry, let's send a reminder. Remember that we are foster parents and adoptive parents that's just giving you our story. This is our journey, the inside scoop to us. That's it, just our experiences.
With that being said, we're giving our disclaimer. We are not medical professionals. We are not legal professionals. We are not experts of any sort. We are simply foster parents, as we stated, and adoptive parents.
Right, and I'm not even gonna say simply, baby. I think
that was a lot.
Yes, we did a lot, we're doing a lot, and foster parents, never ever put yourself down to you're just a foster parent. You are the foster parent for that child, and that makes a big difference. So you know what? Let's just get into it. All reminders, disclaimers are out there, so let's get started.
All right, so common disorders of children in general, ADHD, ADD, and with these disorders.
OD.
I forgot about those.
Oppositional, and there are a whole lot of alphabets because you have you said ADHD, ADD, you have CD, conduct disorder, you have ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, you have BAD that we're all used to. We won't call them bad. But there are a lot of different disorders that's very common when you're talking about children. And there disorders come because of environment. It can be a chemical imbalance. We already gave out all our disclaimers.
Right.
So this is just what we've experienced, what we've learned. It's also for different just makeup and how, when we talk about environment, not just what they consume in, it's about eating as well, but it's about how they're being addressed, as well as that chemical imbalance of how it's going to come out, if that makes any type of sense. So the disorder is just out of order. Okay.
Right. Well, with all that being said, that sounded very complicated to me. But the question is, should you medicate or not medicate?
Well, when you're in foster care, then when you have to take the children to the doctor, then they talk about it. You talk about behaviors. Sometimes they come with you already on medicine. Sometimes after you go to the doctor, they suggest medication.
Strongly.
A lot of medication. Right. And this has nothing to do with levels, all that. So if you're an experienced foster parent, we already made that shift in foster care, that because a child is medicated does not mean the level goes up or level goes down. We're simply just talking about disorders that can disrupt right now. And those disorders have a huge effect on your house. When you choose to medicate, it has a huge effect. If you don't medicate, it has a huge effect. So we know foster parents foster children who've come into the system with the medication already.
Right.
Some been prescribed medication, and it's a uphill battle, where I just heard from a foster parent that just got a child in. They said, well, this medication isn't working. So how do you deal with all that, Larry? And when we're talking about medication, is it the foster parent's decision to medicate?
Well, it is. But if you have, we're required, if they come with medication, to obviously medicate them. But the foster parent has a lot of leeway in that they have to work with the providers in order to come up with strategies and solutions. And that a lot of time often does include medication. But our goal was to get our foster children off of medication in as much as we could. And so, we ended up doing it successfully, but that's not necessarily the case for every child.
Right. So when we talk about that, so our children, when they came to us, and not to go too involved, because like we said, that is their story. But as children come into the system with medication, you are required to continue that medication. But the leeway Larry's talking about is that when you go to the doctor, the foster parent has to share how that medicine is affecting their child.
Right.
So is it working for that child? Is it not working for that child? Also, we have to take into account when you answer that question to medicate or not medicate, by talking with that doctor, then you have to see, okay, what kind of effects have they actually had on that child? What are the common effects of that medication? We had to go through a lot of education because we were not used to medication. Now, everybody's kind of used to ADHD. ADD, yes. Then you get, a pill to kind of bring you down, calm you down. But when we talk about the different disorder, we're not just talking about attention deficit disorders. We're talking about bipolar that's out there. You're talking about manic depression that's out there. We're talking about different things that really affect the child. Some get them down, so you have uppers, and some children are on this natural high that you have to bring them down. So the medication varies. And because we're not medical doctors or practitioners, then we have to rely on the information that's given us. But one thing that we did that we will share with you for sure is to make sure you monitor what's going on with the child.
Absolutely.
Because the impact of those disorders have a huge, change. It can shift the routine inside your house.
Right. And with that being said, oof, man, the impact of disorders on your routine. Some of these disorders can basically prevent your typical grocery shopping. Some children are just not ready to go to the grocery store, and you're laughing because you understand what I'm saying. And you can't go to the movies in some cases. I mean, these are things that you have to kind of learn how to manage as a household and as foster parents before you can take those children out into the public.
Okay, and actually, I am laughing because it is real. And from talking to many parents, this is going to sound very familiar because some children cannot handle the grocery store. It might be from the excitement of the food, but we've seen children, literally foaming at the mouth because you're going through the grocery department in the store. So many times we actually had to divide. Okay, Larry went this way with the basket. I went one way with the basket to keep a certain child out of the food section because it was, and Larry doesn't like me to say the word, but it's like a fetish. It really is. It's just a food fetish that you get so excited because you see food, because it might be whatever situation the child went through. Maybe the child went through hunger and they didn't have a steady supply of food. Maybe that it comes from a large family and the food is shared a lot. So you don't have your own food. So that's very common when we're talking about fostering and adoption in this space of just homelessness or lack of, that a child will want to hoard or they will want to overindulge. So disorders are not just you being hyperactive or you just being kind of too relaxed. It also has to do with eating habits and how you eat, and how you sleep. So, yes, the grocery store could be a trigger for a child.
And at the end of the day, it's the foster parent's job, their duty, if you will, to, try to identify what's causing these behaviors to start. So identifying triggers is a major component of helping keeping, management over your household.
Okay, and go back to the grocery store then, because it might be that child's just not ready for the grocery store. There are many times we had children on a 2-parent rule that we called it. And the 2-parent rule was that they can't go anywhere unless, without both parents with them. Why? Because of the behavior. We had to leave movies, like you stated. We've been, got it. Everybody situated in the movie. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a child got out of,
outside of themselves.
Where, the noise level gets too loud for the movie, or maybe it could be the lights that trigger something in them that they cannot stand the noise and the lights and have different the sensitivity to it that causes outward behaviors that are not acceptable
or unexplainable, especially in that moment. But at the end of the day, you as a foster parent are taking a child out who is experiencing these behaviors, doesn't understand or know how to control them in often too many cases. And you're being looked upon as the quote unquote parent in this situation, and you're feeling ostracized yourself. So you're going to have to take a deep breath and basically get accustomed to managing these situations when you're out in the public.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because the biggest thing is knowing that it's not about you. If you have to leave the movie, leave the movie. I mean, and one thing we tried to do was not punish everybody. So unfortunately, we had to split up a lot, and that's where that 2-parent rule came in. Some activities we both had to be at because you never knew what was going to happen. We've left pumpkin patches, and everything's going great. We painted pumpkins. We walked around. We had the dinner there. The animal zoo was there. And then all of a sudden,
it was time to go.
It was time to go for one child.
Yes.
The screaming started, the stomping started. So to save the pumpkin patch itself, because throwing can happen as well.
That's true.
And we didn't want to buy all those pumpkins.
No.
So in order to save our money and not purchase all these pumpkins being destroyed and save the child, because last week we talked about just the privacy and trust building that's important.
Right.
So to keep this child, we didn't want the other children to say, oh, you made us have to leave. Right. So we had to communicate, keep that eye contact with one another, and realize before it got out of hand that it was about
to get out of hand. That's right.
So, and we walked off. You try to walk off quietly, and that child might scream, I don't want to go. And you're like, I'm trying to take you out quietly. So you have to just be prepared. And that's why I say remove yourself. It's not about me being embarrassed. It's not about Larry being embarrassed or even the other children. It's about saving face at that time.
Exactly.
So we did get a lot of diagnosis. And with that, we had to make the decision if that was going to be best for our household. When we have 7 children in the house, imagine 7 children on 7 different medications.
Right.
And sometimes, remember, it is a medical practice. So you might have 2 medications or 3 medications per child.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have to come back in 2 weeks or a month to see if it's working. And if it's not working, then we try something else. Well, the common effects of that medication while a child is getting used to it is that they might seem very sleepy.
Or very lethargic and just completely distant.
Right.
And their schoolwork tends to suffer in many cases. And you as a foster parent, you're going to have to do a lot of monitoring to figure out what these medicines are doing to these children. And if they're old enough to communicate, then, come up with a solution or strategy, or maybe times to take the medications, best. So these are things to be considered.
Right. And also just keeping in mind that and I'm just going to share with our experience, when the children first were on medication or so forth, the house got really quiet because we had some that were just sleepy, some that didn't know what was going on, some still trying to figure out why you're doing this to me. So that first day might be a honeymoon and you might enjoy it because it was quiet for the first time in a long, long time.
Right.
And that would have been great for us, but we had to consider, is it the best for the child?
Right.
So after monitoring and so forth, and you go back and forth with the doctor, is it working? Do you think it's happened? Well, in our case, we had to say no, and that it wasn't helping our children. Why? Because they were either too sleepy,
right,
or they were really just not themselves. And because we had the opportunity that God gave us to take care of them, we wanted to make sure that we were good stewards over them as well. Yeah. So medication for our household did not work. And we had to, we stayed on our knees, picking up stuff first of all, praying as well, and trying to stop one child from doing something with another child. Right. So I'm not going to say medication does not work. No, medication does work if that's the best choice for you and that child.
Correct.
And for that child first, let me rephrase it. And then for your household. For our household, medication did not work. And it was for a lot of reasons. Our children had already been exposed to medication in their situation, and it was not in their best interest at that time. So the different types of drugs we didn't want to experiment with because there were a lot of unknowns and a lot of knowns. And with those put together, then we felt that the best decision was for us to learn as many strategies as possible and teach them to the children.
Yeah, because that would be the best for them in the long term. We're trying to get them to be, when they go into adults, to not have to rely on medication to function and be successful as adults. So it's better to help them manage and recognize their own behaviors and for them to, come up with their own strategies so that way they can, be successful as we intended.
Right. And you can do that with medication. So I don't want to say, okay, you're a bad foster parent or adoptive parent because you're giving them medicine. That's not what we're saying. Remember, we're sharing our story.
Correct.
So the way our story went is that we had children with sensitivity disorders. So let's talk about the water. We couldn't run bath water. We are out of everyone in the house, we had one child who could fix another child's bath water.
Right.
And it had to be a certain temperature. It had to flow a certain way. Brushing hair was difficult in our home.
That's true.
So because of the bristles on the hairbrush onto the scalp, that was an issue. Noise level became an issue in our home. Right. And you all just...
Wait, hold on. Do you mean the noise level from them creating the noise or from them not being able to withstand the noise? I'm confused.
Both. Because
both.
what's so funny is one of the children who could not stand the noise was making most of the noise. So you have to sit there and balance what's going to be best. I mean, I was told several times by a child, to kind of bring it down. And then I had to tell another child, you bring it down, so we had to learn a lot of balance within our home. So these disorders actually changed a lot of routines. There were many times that we were on the way out the house. We probably left out the garage and came right back through the front door.
That's true. Things as simple as children going out to the bus stop.
Oh,
did I?
Or getting help out to the bus stop.
Out to the bus
because we did have, it was our bus. We were in a situation that, and it was. Now we know that it was a privileged situation, and we were so grateful for it. The bus actually stopped in front of our house on the street, and then the children walked out. So many times the bus driver had to wait. Because no matter how much time we gave in the morning, a good hour to get it together, some children, some people are just not morning people.
That's true. That's true.
So not being a morning person with a diagnosis of a disorder can clash quickly.
Yep.
So no matter how prepared we tried to be, we still couldn't get certain people out the house.
No, it's very interesting in the morning sometimes.
Right. And good, Mr. Larry was always up and dressed first. So he was able to carry a child out. He spent a lot of time on the school bus, putting on shoes on the school bus, giving the backpack on the school bus, trying to, and we didn't, at that time that straps and seatbelts weren't on the school bus. At that time, they then later got them. But just trying to keep the child on the school bus and I'm inside praying, Lord, please let them just take off with this child today to get to the school. Because many times we had to then take the child to the school.
True.
Because if you can't get them settled down for the bus can't take off.
We had some good bus drivers.
We did. We had some, they're all retired now,
Yes.
That, right?
I wonder why.
So I don't know why, but yes, by the time I was out in junior high, they were retired. They were retired.
Yep.
So we went through 2 bus drivers that retired. But those are different routines that changed. We had one child that walked by a mirror and would say, "Hi, pretty, I'm pretty too." I thought it was the cutest thing until I thought that one day maybe that mirror was talking back to her for real. So you gotta kind of look at these disorders and see what's going on. So of course I started turning the mirror around because it was just kind of freaking me out at that point that did that mirror really say something? Did that child?
You wanted that mirror to
did that child think? No, it would have been nice, but the way the child was having the conversation with that mirror, I thought it was kind of real. Yeah, it was causing a concern.
Oh yeah.
So what we did in lieu of the medication, we went through tons of training. Tons of trainings of how to identify triggers, what strategies that we could use once a child is triggered. And remember, it's that you don't know everything in their past. So you don't really know what's going to trigger. The things that you don't feel that might trigger we will go down a certain road or highway and have a child going absolutely crazy. And not knowing why. I mean, from crying, tears to screaming, trying to get out of car seats, and throwing shoes. I mean, just later found out that highway was a trigger because they could see a different skyscraper in a neighborhood and feel that that's that neighborhood. That trauma occurred there. So, and I've heard that being very common with a lot of different foster children. When you go to a certain place, that child gets triggered that this is where this occurred. So you don't know that until you're there, and we had to kind of piece it together through talking with all their workers and through the counseling. So our house, a weekly, let me say, routine in our house was just simply, we had 3 days a week, probably,
Yes.
that we had people in the house.
Yes.
So we had to quickly come home, do homework, get dinner out the way, get it started. And then we had different rooms where the children would meet with their counselors. So it's very important that you understand in managing those behaviors, what you talk about as adults, very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Very important, because our counselors would debrief with us after meeting with our children. And we had to say, wait, let's, make sure that the other children weren't around to ourselves, because we wanted to keep their privacy with them.
That's right.
As they discussed with the counselor, but also you have to make sure they don't feel that you're talking about the parent.
Right. And that's very big, especially with older children, hey, that's their parents. So the last thing you want is someone saying something negative or disparaging about your parents. So, we definitely understood how they felt in that situation.
Right. So that's one thing that where we had to protect them as well. And when you talk about managing behaviors, because so many times foster parents will talk about, oh, after the visitation, I noticed the child was doing this. Or after counseling, I noticed that the child was doing this. Right. Well, what occurred during their visitation or during their counseling session or after that was said that made the child climb up or get angry, right, or overstimulated. So those are things that we had to look out for as well. So we did go through a couple counselors because they want to tell you everything that the parent's not doing, and that's true. That's not what we're interested in.
Right, exactly. And a child didn't need to hear that because, again, it turned them away from all parties involved.
Right. So trying to manage their behaviors, it takes a lot. It's managing your conversation. It's being aware of and reading the room, looking at them as you discuss certain things, and trying not to bring those bad experiences back up. Right. So even with us talking and revealing our story, our journey, we had to do a lot of talking with our children before. Are you comfortable with us sharing our journey, our portion of it? And some things they said yes to, some things they said no to. And we had to take that into consideration and really just honor that.
Yeah, and we respect that. So
right. So we've taught them strategies. They've done well. Yes, we've had a lot of hard times, especially those first years were just really, really hard. It's after you find a diagnosis, because when we talk about the simple disorders can disrupt, they will disrupt.
Absolutely.
They will. Now, how far they disrupt would be up to you. When we say disrupt, it's not that they're going to tear your house up, but it can happen. It might happen.
Right.
Our case, sometimes it did happen.
Right.
But we're saying it's going to disrupt what your normal is.
That's right.
So you would have to be flexible. You would have to change different things.
You would have to be prayed up, and you would have to be strong enough to understand that these are children and that they're looking to you for guidance at the end of the day.
Right, baby. And that's very important because we had to check ourselves a lot.
Right, a lot.
And that's why we say it can disrupt if not denied. We had to understand, wait a minute, you're doing this because of this. That's cool. We did not always know what this was, but we did know that it was a reason they misbehaved. It was a reason they didn't want to do a certain, function or whatever we asked them to do. Right. It's not saying that it was allowed and we actually excused it. It's that we recognized it and we then addressed whatever that situation was.
Right.
So if you deny and just say, okay, well, because they have been diagnosed with this, then they're supposed to do this. No, you don't have to tear up my house. We don't have to break mirrors, and we had different situations that occur. You don't have to throw stuff around, and you're definitely not going to curse us out because of a disorder. So let's talk about how you can show us, that you
communicate, your feelings and what your thoughts are without being destructive.
Right. So yes, I'm going to say this. Even though it went to Larry, yes, even though it went to Larry, I'm going to say that we had to learn that less is more.
Yes, less
You
is
know.
more. Less is absolutely more. I'm a natural lecturer as relates to discipline. You probably don't know this, but I'm a disciplinarian in the household.
Yes, and he talks a lot. Even though I'm doing a lot of talking, no. In the home, he
Don't
talks
believe
a
it.
lot.
Don't believe it. Don't believe it.
So,
Okay, I do talk a lot. I tend to lecture. I have to, check my words. Some of my children put me on a word count even today. So, matter of fact, the grandchildren are starting to do it. Okay, anyway, less is definitely more. It's about intention. It's about letting the children know how you feel, that you're there to support them. And if they're wrong, we're going to correct your actions, and we're going to, think of something or come up with a strategy to do something else other than what you did to get yourself in trouble. So we'll go through that scenario, and then that's pretty much it. After that, I'm just going on and on and on, and they're not listening anyway.
right. So that's what we had to learn, that more words you use, the less they listen. So if you want your child to do something, tell them what you want to do, them to do, and give them a choice. Right. So you can either sit here and eat your food, or you can go take your bath and come back and eat your food. The whole point was that eating the food was not the option.
Yep.
The option is when you wanted to do it. And that's where we had to remove ourselves, because as parents, I said, do it, so do it now.
Right.
That doesn't work with our children.
That's true.
So you can eat it now, or you can go take your bath, which still had to get done, you all,
True.
And come back and eat. But with the part that we had to leave out was, well, because I said that dinner is going to be at 6:30, and you need to do it now, and why? Well, when my parents told me to eat, then we just ate. We didn't have a choice when when I was your age. They don't care. They don't care. And really, it's not even relevant.
And at the end of the day, if you've ever saw a child sit and just look at you for 30, 40, 50,
which
an hour, 2 hours, you've quickly come to the conclusion that, you know what, let me just give them a couple of options. They're going to choose an option, whichever one they feel like is the best for them at that time. And then we're going to all move on with our lives.
Right. And it's giving them the power.
Yes,
again,
that's it.
Because that's all that their disagreements go into, a power struggle. Who's going to be right? Who's going to be wrong? So put the power back with them. It'll make your night go a lot faster.
Right.
You still get it done, and because they're still going to eat, they still need to bathe. So the timing, if one goes before the other, it's not that important.
It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that important, but it is getting them to actually comply with what you asked them to do, what you told them to do, as well as them having a choice.
Right.
Okay. So one thing that we learned was to tag team a lot. So I
tagged a lot. I just want to say,
right.
She tagged me in a lot more than I think I tagged her in.
And that's,
yeah,
but that's because you need to know yourself.
Oh,
so I knew that in certain situations, he had a little more patience than I had. So therefore, then he had to be tagged in, because we didn't want an issue that night. We didn't need an episode or a scenario to occur. We just needed to get through the night, get everything accomplished we needed to get accomplished. The children do what they needed to do. Them feel that we still going to love and support through these issues without the problems. So therefore, we did have to tag team a lot. Sometime in public, where if I was pushing the basket in the groceries and something happened or it didn't quite go the way we wanted to, I would call them on the phone. Hey, meet me over here by the jury, and we switch kids.
True.
I mean, whatever needed to happen is what needed to happen. The pumpkin patch, I was really excited. I've never been to a pumpkin patch before at that time, and I wanted to stay there. But at that moment, Larry was with the other children. They were going on a ride. I have motion issues where I couldn't go on the pumpkin ride or the hay ride and not get sick. So guess who had to leave the pumpkin patch with the child? I did. So that's the tag teaming. I remember certain incidences you have to figure out what works for you. Where when we had code words, where when Larry saw me kind of getting agitated or too frustrated, he would say, "Oh, baby, you want to go and take a bath at this time?" You all, that was my trigger myself.
Right.
And my reminder that you're getting out of control right now. We need to bring this down. This child need a break from whatever's going on. Why don't you go take your bath, relax, and then come back? And I did it right. So I went around, I took my advice. It took a little while, especially when, no, babe, go take your bath. And I'm like, oh, okay, you all, I'll be right back. That meant that mommy needed a timeout for a second.
Right.
I needed a break. So we have to, choose what's going to be best. Don't deny it. Don't ignore the disorders. Find out as much as you can so you can learn strategies. You can teach the child how to strategize and just be consistent.
Be consistent. That's a big.
Be consistent.
Be consistent.
It's going to take time. Be patient. Be consistent. But yes, you can get through all diagnoses, all disorders, with or without medication, whatever is best with your home. Just don't deny that it's occurring. Don't ignore it. Be consistent. Love them through it. And then all of you all will get through it.
That's right. Thanks for tuning in to the Foster and Adoption Podcast.
We discussed disorders and disruptions and what we did to counterbalance it in our own home. Now, did it ever get out of control? Did the behaviors become too much at sometimes? Tune in next week so you can learn a little bit about what we did in order to secure our own safety and sanity while fostering.
Like, share, and subscribe. See you next week.
Bye.